says Jehoiachin reigned 3 months, while 2 Chronicles 36:9 says he reigned for 3 months and 10 days, not just 3 months. Regarding how Saul died, there are not 2, but 3 versions of this event. 1 Samuel 31:4 says he killed himself. 2 Samuel 21:12 says he was killed by a Philistine. And 2 Samuel 1:10 says he was killed by an Amalekite. So which is it? Was Saul killed by himself, by a Philistine, or by an Amalekite? The apologist Johnson tries to reconcile these conflicts by saying that he was killed by an Amalekite and not a Philistine or himself. On page 33 in his book he says, quote, "The probable solution to this problem is that Saul was mortally wounded by the Philistines. He fell upon his sword in order to kill himself, but failed to do so. Then the Amalekite came along, and Saul asked him to kill him. Later the Amalekite reported to David," and this is what he told David, "So I stood upon him and slew him, because I was sure that he could not live after he was fallen." So, Johnson continues, "So it was a case of being wounded by the enemy, an attempted suicide, and then being killed by a young Amalekite." Unquote Johnson. To this one can only say, what a lot of gobbledygook. For goodness sake, man, what does the text say? 2 Samuel 21:12 says that he was slain by the Philistines. Specifically, the text says, verbatim, word for word, when the Philistines had slain Saul in Gilboa. It says slain, S-L-A-I-N. In other words, he was dead, D-E-A-D. Nowhere does it say that he was wounded or they wounded him. Secondly, nowhere does the text say Saul failed to kill himself. Quite the contrary. 1 Samuel 31:4-5 says, Saul took a sword and fell upon it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, that's spelled D-E-A-D, D-E-A-D, he fell likewise upon his sword. Unquote. To say that he fell upon his sword in order to kill himself but failed to do so is ridiculous. The text clearly says he succeeded. Moreover, the text does not say that the armor-bearer thought he was dead. It says his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead. There's no thought to it. It doesn't say he thought as much. It says he was dead. Johnson began his defense by using the phrase probable solution. His solution isn't even probable. It's pure nonsense. Moving on, 2 Samuel 24:9 says that the number of men who drew the sword in Judah was 500,000, while the same account in 1 Chronicles 21:5 says the number that drew the sword in Judah was 470,000, not 500,000. What kind of rationalization does Arndt give to explain this dilemma? He says, quote, evidently the account in 1 Chronicles is more exact than the other. The writer of 2 Samuel contents himself with stating the number of warriors in round figures. Here then there is no discrepancy, unquote. And to that one can only say, who is he kidding? Of course there's a discrepancy. It's a major discrepancy of 30,000 men. One of the figures is wrong. And possibly both are wrong. But when one says 500,000 and the other one says 470,000, it's beyond question that one of them is false. Both figures can't be true at the same time. One need only read Scripture with a reasonably critical eye to realize that conflicts of this nature are almost too numerous to mention. Another problem worthy of note concerns Cain and his wife. While sitting in a cafeteria many years ago, a devout Christian related a problem to me that had always bothered him immensely. He could never figure out where Cain got his wife. The problem is created by Genesis 4:16-17, which says, quote, Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. Since Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel, where did this additional woman come from? Incidentally, where does the Bible say that Cain and his wife were ever married? Where does it say Cain married his wife? Nothing whatsoever is said about marriage in any form. No ceremony of any kind occurs, nor are vows exchanged. That's also true of the relationship between Adam and Eve. All the text says is that Eve was formed from a rib of Adam, and Cain knew his wife. The former situation resembles a chemistry experiment in the tradition of Bela Lugosi and Dr. Frankenstein, and the latter resembles an affair. Another problem with the Adam and Eve myth comes to life when we compare Genesis 2:17, which says, In the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. When we compare that with Genesis 5:5, which says Adam lived to be 930 years old. He's actually one of the oldest men in the Bible.